Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. Today is the 20th of August 2024 and these are the stories. In fact, today is the 21st of August 2024 and these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the International Day of Victims of Terrorism that is being observed all across the world, including in Pakistan. Now, this International Day was established way back in 2017 and it is observed only on this very day, that is the 21st of August, not only to honor and support the victims and survivors of terrorism, but also to promote and protect their human rights and fundamental freedoms. When it comes to Pakistan, we've been a victim to heinous incidents of such attacks of terrorism that have led to the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians and defense forces alike. The fact is that Pakistan understands the victims of terrorism much more than many other countries across the world, and this is what we are going to highlight during the course of this first segment. Our second segment concerns India being a rape capital of the world. When we look at the number of rape incidents that have been happening across India, whether it be the 2012 heinous incident in New Delhi, whether it be all the incidents that have followed suit, whether it be the rape incidents that have been happening in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, India, despite it declaring itself to be a pluralistic country and the mother of all democracies, or the biggest democracy in the world, is anything but that. The fact also remains that now the entire India is grappled by a wave of protests by the doctors and other civil society members to highlight what has been grappling India as far as such heinous incidents of rape is concerned. What is behind all of that? Is it a mentality? Is it the patriarchy? Is it the rape, those who perpetrate rape, who are let go scot-free without any issue? That and more will be discussed in our second segment. Then we are going to discuss a Pakistani female peacekeeper who has won the award for gender advocacy. Major Sania Safdar has become the first UN peacekeeper in Cyprus to receive the 2023 Certificate of Recognition for advocating gender equality. Then we are going to talk about dozens of Pakistani pilgrims who have unfortunately passed away in an Iranian road accident, and many have been critically injured as well in a bus accident in the Iranian city of Yazd. Of course, the condolences have come from across the world and also from the Pakistani side, whether it be our hierarchy, our Prime Minister, our President, our Chief of the Army Staff, and also there has been a very important statement by the Foreign Office in this regard. Finally, we are going to talk about Jennifer Lopez. For those who know music or acting, know Jennifer Lopez, who's been making headlines across the world as a musician since the last few decades. Now she has filed for divorce from Ben Affleck, who himself is a director, producer and actor in the US as well, and both of course had been married for a certain number of years. Before that they had been kindling a romance for the last 2 decades on and off, and now after 2 years of marriage they have called it quits. This is going to be the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first story, and that concerns the International Day of the Victims of Terrorism. We've been joined by two guests to discuss different aspects of this. In the studios we've been joined by Abdullah Khan Sahab. He is the Managing Director of PICSS. Thank you very much, Abdullah Khan Sahab, to have joined us. And online we've been joined by Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua, retired Senior Analyst. Brigadier Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us for this important segment. Let's begin with you, Abdullah Khan Sahab. Abdullah Khan Sahab, President Asif Ali Zardari Sahab pays homage to all the victims of terrorism in a very important statement that he takes out today, including civilians, the brave personnel of security forces and the law enforcement agencies who have lost their lives while defending the country from terrorists. He says that this day reminds us of the pain and the suffering of the families who have lost their loved ones in the hands of terrorists. From Pakistani point of view, before we go to the global perspective, what is the significance of this International Day of Victims of Terrorism?
Today is a very important day for Pakistan because Pakistan is the third most affected country in the world after Afghanistan and Iraq, which has lost so many number of people, tens of thousands, as you said in your intro. So it is very important, I think, but the realization I could not find in the nation as a whole, because only we can find ceremonial kind of statements coming from head of state. Yes, that is very important, but we should have expressed it as a nation
Have we grown more or less numb because of the number of incidents that we have witnessed over the decades? Because if we look at the previous decades, the number of civilians or the members of the of our defense forces who have laid down their lives, who have been mercilessly killed in different heinous incidents that have grappled Pakistan over the decades. It's just not right now, but over the last few decades. Do you feel after a certain time you kind of become numb when you look at such incidents? And in your point of view, what needs to be done to reinvigorate that essence of helping those, of having that compassion for the victims of terrorism?
I think we should have been more sensitive to it, because we are the third most affected country, and the pain, the agony, the people suffered throughout the country, all parts of the country, children, women, the people are still going through trauma. But as a nation, I think we have failed to actually take care of them. We should actually have arranged some sort of events for them, some sort of NGOs working for them. There are few, but at the level where we need to rehabilitate them, reintegrate them into the society, we should, post-trauma, a lot of things have been done in other countries where few incidents happened. But here, unfortunately, I would tend to agree with you that we have become numb.
Because we've seen so much of death, so much of destruction over the last decades, that I feel over a certain amount of time we more or less become numb. Let's come to our second guest, Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua Sahab. What's your take on this? What's Pakistan's perspective on the victims of terrorism? Do you feel, as Abdullah Sahab says, that we have, or I was also referring to, that we are slightly growing numb because of the number of such incidents that we have been witness to over the decades?
No, I wouldn't say we are getting numb, because I think nobody is more sensitive to the depredations of terrorism than Pakistan. And we oft quote this number, 80,000 casualties from 2001 onwards till to date, and $120 million worth of material loss. So this is the figure that we quote quite liberally, but there is a human dimension to that. A lot of lives lost, a lot of livelihoods lost, a complete social ecosystem gone. And imagine the fate of those areas where there used to be a flourishing social ecosystem, and now it presents a desolate landscape. There are, in fact, three dimensions. One is global, one is regional, and third is the local. At the global level, there is not a single definition of terrorism that the international community is, agreed upon. And it is probably one of the reasons that the rehabilitative part of the victims of terrorism, about which we are talking today, this is the International Day of the Victims of Terrorism, has not come into black and white at the UN level. At the UN level, we have two international conventions. Both deal with the protection to the victims of terrorism, torture, and then countering terrorism. There's a counter-terrorism committee of UN, committee number 3, which is seized with the matters pertaining to counter-terrorism and violent extremism. And more accent is being laid by UN bodies on leaning upon the domestic legal apparatus of respective countries to bring their legislation in line with those measures where rehabilitative part of the victims of terrorism could be taken care of. At the global level, there are two examples. One is the global UN initiative in Nigeria, where our rehabilitative process is on about the victims of terrorism. Another is an NGO in Lebanon, the victims of terrorism in Lebanon. So that NGO in collaboration with UN. But other than that, the United Nations hasn't established a specific resolution on that, like the resolution of 1373, because that was more dealing with the terrorism, the responsibilities of the nations to bring their legislation in line with the requirements to stop the financial flow to the terrorists. So all that has been done. But Pakistan, now coming over to our national level, after we went through this whole process of war on terrorism. We fought the Soviet war against the Soviet, and then we were involved with the United States once the war in Afghanistan was on from 2003 onwards, and which in many ways is still haunting us. We have established our own rehabilitative centers. Two were established in Swat, and now those are not any longer in the custody of armed forces. Civilians are running them. But at the federal level, there is a organization that has been set up, which is taking care of the planning and proper rehabilitative part as to how to deal with the psychological traumas, how to impart the requisite skills, and how to, rehabilitate the victims of terrorism. So that part is on. Third level is local. At the local level, the government and the armed forces have done a lot in merged districts and some areas of Balochistan where rehabilitative work has been carried out. Shops have been rebuilt, schools, nurseries, and the health facilities have come up. But what is amiss is perhaps an institutionalized system of provision of livelihoods and integrating the people, including some of the IDPs, back into their ecosystems and where the civilization once flourished. So that is a big vacuum in our merged districts and insurgency hit areas which are under the TTP terrorism. Still, there are vacant spaces. The infrastructure is there, but people don't go and inhabit those areas out of the fear of those terrorists. So that's an area on which the state needs to work at the local level and come up with a local government system, and empower it financially as well as administratively, increase the administrative rate, increase the police capacity, and send the judicial representatives who could maybe use the local Rivaj system or the alternative dispute resolution systems to provide justice, because there's a lot of dispute amongst the people in the terrorism.
I get that, Brigadier Sahab, and I think that's a very important perspective that you've brought about from a global and a regional and a national perspective. But I have to go to Abdullah Khan Sahab also, who's waiting patiently. According to an annual security report issued by the Center for Research and Security Studies, Pakistan has witnessed 1,524 violence-related fatalities, 1,463 injuries from 789 terror attacks and counter-terrorist operations in 2023 alone, which was a 6-year record high. Of course, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan are the primary centers of violence. In your point of view, how can we as civilians support the victims of terrorism in our communities? What role can or should the civil society play in supporting these victims?
Actually, this is what I wanted to highlight. Brigadier Sahab very much highlighted the role which the state and security forces are playing, but the civil society, which I actually highlighted in my initial response, that civil society, what is our civil society is doing, how many NGOs of victim of terrorism we have. We have Mama Kadir, who is actually indirectly supporting separatist ideology, and some of the missing persons who were in the camps, and they are presenting them as missing person. They have their fronts. There are others, they have fronts, but victim of terrorism who lost their lives, we don't have any face here to present. Was there any demonstration today, anywhere, any candlelight, anything? Just we are talking at PTV, and
we have to talk
thanks
about
to
this,
you. Thanks to you, you picked a very important topic. What the civil society is doing, that is where I think there is room to do it. So civil society needs to step in, and just like the UN General Assembly recently in 2022, I think they have made a network of groups of victims of terrorism. Like that, we also need to have a networking of because we have victims of terrorism in newly merged districts from Fata, from KP, Balochistan, and rest of the country. We also need to develop some civil society organizations who can present their case internationally. When
also nationally help those victims who have gone through
they need
trauma.
To share their experiences with each other. We should there are case studies that we can apply to other areas. So society is overall, I think, is not that much sensitive, while the state is doing what it could, or what it aims to do, but there is need from the civil societies to step in. That is the requirement of the day, and I think this is very important. This also is a sort of counter narrative, because while we say, as a Brigadier Sahib said, we say the 80,000 people lost their lives, and when there is no voice coming on specific day from the people who are victim, and
the people's responsibility becomes paramount as well on days like this. Brigadier Rashid Janjua Sahib, sensitization of the public and the public understanding the importance of days such as these and doing its needful is also something that has been highlighted by Abdullah Sahib. What I'd like to understand is the President of Pakistan reaffirms a commitment to continue taking decisive action against terrorists. He said it is the government's fundamental goal to not only eradicate terrorism with the support of the people, but also secure a peaceful future for the country. So he also gives a certain responsibility to the citizens of Pakistan. In your point of view, how can the governments, how can organizations from the civil sector, from the private sector, as well as the public better assist victims of terrorism in order for them to regain their lives as normal citizens?
You see, terrorism is propaganda by deed, whose aim is that society and the people lose faith in hope. As long as we fortify hope and we restore confidence of the people who are affected, and state comes up with the requisite succor, it provides the necessary rehabilitative help and provides all kinds of post-trauma, medical, educational and livelihood assistance. I think that hope would remain alive. And that is the job of the state. We have to look at the disbursements that have been done for the development and settlement of the IDPs. So they are also mostly, all the IDPs were terrorism affected, and some of them are still not fully settled. So that is an area government has to look at, and we have to earmark the requisite amount. 600 billion was promised from 2020 onwards, and still pittance has been actually expended. Now the imprint of the civil administration needs to be there, legal system needs to be instituted, and the livelihoods have to be restored. The armed forces are playing their part in keeping the menace of TTP away, but it is the whole of the society requirement. One institution alone cannot do that. In fact, all the government departments, academia, media, and civil society have to lend their shoulder to this great effort, where the victims of terrorism, they are not left in the lurch. They are supported and they are treated with kindness, not only by the institutions which are supposed to look after them, but by the society generally. So this is, I think, a very important part, that if we take care of this aspect and ensure that people do not lose hope in the ability of the state to look after themselves, the terrorism can never win. Otherwise, the objective of terrorism is to sow the seeds of fear, and so that the society loses its cohesion and faith. And that is always done in a vacuum, where there is a legal vacuum, there is a development vacuum, and there is a policing vacuum. So all those vacuums need to be targeted, and we need to activate the international efforts like we are doing in case of refugees. We need to impress upon the United Nations to earmark certain funds for the victims of terrorism, like we do in case of climate, we do in case of refugees and flood assistance. So this is an aspect that I think is very, very important, which is still amiss in the international architecture of legal and humanitarian support to the victims of terrorism.
Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua Sahib to have joined us to discuss this very, very important aspect that, as Abdullah Sahib pointed out, is not being discussed as much as it should be amongst the local or the international media today. Thank you very much to have joined us. We will go back to our guest Abdullah Khan in the studios. Abdullah Saab, Zardari Saab says terrorism is a global challenge. It requires collective efforts, cooperation by the international community for its complete elimination. He also talks about strengthening international cooperation and addressing the root causes of extremism and terrorism. When we look at, if we go beyond Pakistan, when we look at what is happening in Afghanistan, the hub of, terrorist organizations now as we speak, so many organizations, there is the Fitna al-Khawarij, TTP, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, go to in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the terrorism that is going on there against the people, go to Palestine, the terrorism that is going on against the hapless people with the tens of thousands who've been killed and those who've been injured as well. And we're not even talking of the psychological trauma. What kind of international cooperation is really needed in these times to support the ongoing victims, the victims of the ongoing terrorism and the victims of past terrorist incidents?
I think Mr. President has rightly highlighted that this is a global challenge and the world should collectively fight it, because we have seen terrorist acts in Europe and Russia and all parts of the country, and beside that you have highlighted the state terrorism which is being done in Palestine and Kashmir.
Because terrorism is terrorism,
Yes, although as the Brigadier had highlighted that there is no agreed upon definition, but that is terrorism which is being committed, and that is terrorism. So, but when we come to the victims of terrorism, global cooperation is very important. UN General Assembly also established a fund, but we have to see how much Pakistan is interested in that, because we need much more assistance
internationally. We haven't even received the proper climate funding.
Yes, so we have to fight it collectively, and the other thing Mr. President has highlighted is the root causes. When you are involved in promoting global games around poor countries like Pakistan, and then you come with some peanuts of supporting some initiatives of counter-terrorism, and then this is not fair. You have to get off from these global games, and we are actually victim of global games. We are a strategic location which should have been a benefit to us, but rather than we have become victim of
but how can we help ourselves? How can we help ourselves in your point of view? How can for example, we raise awareness about the needs of victims of terrorism, and how can we also individually, if not collectively, help those victims?
I think the first and foremost thing is that we need to create a channel of civil society where the victim of terrorism can connect with each other, cooperate with each other, understand each other's traumas and sufferings, and then share best practices to cope up. This will actually highlight the overall issue, and we can create a platform where we can raise awareness all over the country, and that is very important at the national level. And the government, I think, also although the government is doing some work, but it needs to prioritize this, because we being the third most affected country, we need to actually have some sort of buzzword that we are actually victim, and just
but I think we also need to help ourselves before we go to a collective issue or a state or regional help or international help, like from organizations like the UN. I think it all begins with your own self. We, myself, yourself, should individually go out and see who is in our vicinity, in our neighborhood, who's been a victim, and then try to help him, if not monetarily, then psychologically, but they need help. Socially. And I think this is also what our religion tells us, to help those who are in need.
Indeed, you are right. We also look in our neighbors, and I think overall our society is very much supportive to these people, but I think when there is in the absence of a proper channel, a proper platform, perhaps we are not doing well where we could have done.
So what you need to what you're trying to say is that we need to create a civil platform through which those victims could be individually helped, through people like myself, yourselves, and so many others who want to help those who are in need, and who know what terrorism is and how it affects people physically, monetarily, financially and psychologically. Thank you very much, Abdullah Khan Sahab, MD of PICSS, to have joined us and to have discussed this very important issue, and thank you to have also said that we are the only channel who is talking about this today on the eve of this very important day. I think we should highlight it more and more on different media, whether it be on state media, whether it be on the print media, or even on social media. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns rape and India. A lot of people across the world, a lot of reports, whether it be from The Guardian or others, call India a rape capital of the world. Long story of Indian women being sexually assaulted, continuing to be victims of sexual abuse and harassment, from doctors to girls, from Hindu women to Muslim women, and from foreign black women to actors. Everybody has been a victim of cruelty. India's law and order has been threatened due to the increasing incidence of rape under the Modi government. According to the report of the National Crime Records Bureau of India, crimes against women and sexual violence has increased during Modi's 10-year rule. Number of crimes against women has increased from 337,922 in 2014 to 371,503 in 2020. The Times of India reports that rape cases in Mumbai have increased by 235% between 2012 and 2021. According to the report, more than 400,000 cases of crimes against women have been registered. According to the National Crimes Record Bureau, also in India, 86 women are abused every single day, while 29 cases of crimes against women are registered every hour. This is heinous. This is a global phenomenon, but of course when we look at the number of incidents that is happening in India, it raises a lot of concern about a country that calls itself the world's largest democracy. To discuss that and more and different aspects related to that, we've been joined by Dr. Salma Malik. She's a foreign affairs expert and she joins us right here in the studios. Dr. Salma Malik, thank you very much to have joined us. I was just narrating the whole story of Indian women being sexually assaulted, and I was giving the different facts and figures by different institutions. What are the basic reasons behind India now infamously being known as the rape capital of the world? What are the social and cultural factors that contribute to such high incident of rape in the country?
Thank you so much, Omar. This is a very strong concern, and let me just add one more aspect to it, that the day unfortunately this happened, the Indian newspapers, more or less on the same day or a day before, in fact it was the same day, carried massive headlines about allegedly in Pakistan a foreign national lady facing a similar situation. And it all turned out to be a fake aspect, but it was splashed all over the international media, and the way they have their fake deep fakes, so it was used there, while at the same time this thing had already happened in Calcutta. You see, the main issue behind this is the type of social repression, the type of economic depression which is not highlighted in the Shiny India model, where we talk about the grand year-long Ambani wedding, and you spend money as if it doesn't really matter, and all the people from around the world are there celebrating the wedding, and right under that very particular household there's an entire Jhompapatti in Bombay which is deprived, which does not even have clean sanitary conditions, sanitation conditions, they don't have water, they don't have any food. And here's this discrepancy that people see. So the type of social disconnect, the type of social deprivation and perversion that is going on, the type of culture which the government has kind of inculcated in people. And of course this is the incidents of sexual abuse and harassment are rampant all over, but there is a sizable ratio of victims who belong to the Muslim community, who belong to non-Hindu communities, and they are specially targeted and specifically targeted so to teach these minorities a lesson, so to kill that particular civilization's future potential to have children, and that spirit. And when you look at the UN legislations on the rights of women, the very famous UNSCR resolution 1325, rape is considered to be a war crime. So if we take the everyday occurrence in India, something akin to a silent sub-level civil war where every Muslim has to fight for her life. An assault on a Muslim woman or an assault on a non-Hindu lady should be taken as part of a war crime.
Do you feel that rape is a tool that is
Absolutely.
used by the politicians, the hierarchy, those who are in power, either for political gains or for hierarchical gains or for patriarchal gains or for any other gains that could subjugate a certain segment of the society to their whims and fancy?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's exactly what this is all about. Subjugating them, finishing them, the point that you said earlier, killing their spirit. You see, unfortunately, when a person becomes victim to rape, it is not just a physical attack on somebody's physique. I'm not using the particular term because it sounds so obnoxious when we use the particular term, but the very fact that a female undergoes that particular trauma does not only end right there and then. There is a mental rape, there is your spatial rape, and there is also this factor that you carry forever and forever, and you are never confident stepping out. You are never confident being in a place where are more than few men. You are never comfortable in a place which is dark. This young girl who was going home, who has been codenamed Nirbhaya, after which they even brought about an anti-rape legislation. What was her fault? She was going home after working. This lady was a young doctor, and no one is safe. But what is the impression that is coming out to the world, or how India is marketing itself is that shiny India model, everything is perfect, everyone is on the path to progress. But these are those very, very lethal, strong undercurrents that one needs to realize that not everyone is on the same socio-economic, cultural pathway. And absolutely, sexual harassment, sexual abuse of a woman specifically is done by majority community to teach a lesson, to rub the nose of that community.
Even here, even in India, with the caste system that
Absolutely.
is still there, despite
Absolutely.
the fact that we are in the 21st century, it is also used to pressurize the lower caste members.
And with the Modi government, this caste system is becoming much more entrenched. And another factor is the glorification of such aspects in the Bollywood. There's a lot of
Objectifying women in a certain
exactly.
manner, and then showing to the world as if this is the soft image of India.
Absolutely.
But in fact, what it is doing is extreme damage within India. And you know, this is something that is very important to highlight, because it's objectivity and the way you objectify women in a certain manner on Indian films, Indian television, and then show it and portray it as the soft image. Whereas everybody knows that the culture and the traditions in South Asia are totally different from the culture and traditions in the West. Secondly, the rape apologists. This is something also that I'd like your point of view on. Those who feel that it's all the women's fault. Whatever happens, it is the woman's fault. It's not their fault. They were lured into it. I'd like your point of view on these quote-unquote rape apologists and their point of view.
You see, the first thing was that when the Hindus started to assault the Muslim women, they talked about the love jihad and so many other aspects that we need to get into a course correction. What you don't realize that when you do such things, when you kosher such things in a society, that means that everyone is an easy target, right? So if I as a woman go home in my car, or if I don't have a car and I go home or my car breaks down, am I luring men? But they would say, oh, she was alone at night and she welcomed. What was she doing at night? This was not her place to be. Why was she in a bus full of men?
Why was she in a hospital sleeping at night?
Sleeping at night. She shouldn't have been there. And it's not only the men, it's the women even who say, oh, she wore such type of clothes, she dressed herself up, she exposed her hair, she did this, she did that. So this victim shaming and rape apologists that you're talking about, unfortunately you find them everywhere. But in societies which have become deeply misogynist And that too is the visuals that these people see. That is also the chest thumping approach of the chief executive of the country, who says that I'm a big gorilla and I can do anything about it. So men think, even with dwarfish personalities, that if they do what they're doing to helpless women, they would actually tower above them and they would really rise up. And that is why this system is becoming ingrained in the system. Not only men, women, everyone is kind of deeply getting entrenched into a misogynist society, which is deeply masculine.
Look, I mean, if you look a little bit in the past, look at the Bilkis Banu's incident during the 2002 famous Gujarat riots. All those who were behind her gang rape were released in 2022 on Narendra Modi's behest. Do you feel that the whole social fabric under Narendra Modi's government since the last 10 years is slowly and steadily degrading? And if so, to which extent will it go before there's no turning back?
I think the course correction is needed as of yesterday. The Bilkis Banu incident, if we turn the table, and God forbid, if there was, instead of Bilkis Banu, a young Hindu lady who was who underwent such a trauma by Muslim guys, then what would have been the response of the Modi government, right? So we have to see that all of these things are sanctioned. They are really, these men are entitled to do as and how they please. And the more they do it, the better it is. In a society where the top boss is telling people to make tableaus of breaking down the mosque and how fast you do it, small children who are not even, who are preschoolers, they are being tutored, their minds are being set. So raping a Muslim woman, abusing a Muslim woman, taking away her
or
life
even a Dalit
and soul
woman for that aspect,
is absolutely kosher now. So you would actually, when that young lady was abused by so many men, when she gave her testimony, she said the youngest of them was the most brutal. So it's how the young people are being exposed to this brutal mindset, which is going to actually destroy the fabric of Indian society in the longer run. The civil society that India is so proud of. They do take out candlelit vigils from time to time, but is that enough for a course correction? That is not.
You know, speaking of course correction, let's talk about the Indian judicial system. Now, after this heinous incident of the Indian trainee doctor, the Indian Supreme Court has taken a suo motu notice of rape and murder of this person in Kolkata. But we need to look also in the past at all the incidents that have been happening and all the incidents that have been unaccounted for because of a weak judicial system. Millions of Indian women have been assaulted and are still waiting for justice. What needs to be done from a judicial point of view now that it has gained heat and everybody in the national and international media is finally talking about something that has been happening in India since decades?
Omar, you see, this is very selective. I'm quite sure that this young lady, her perpetrators would get squarely punished, and they would make an example, and there would be a lot of congratulations to India that they have done this, and they're really going to make a model case out of it, and befitting kind of sentences and everything. However, this is just one selectively isolated case. There are umpteenth communal based rape victims. If we don't talk about
so many
the
women
Muslims
don't come
alone,
out because of the
there
shame.
are the Adavasis in Manipur and so many other tribal agencies who are systematically being subjected to these things by the Indian security forces. Let's go to Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir area. Kunan Pashpura, 30 years back, even prior to Modi, and the entire 2 villages were subjected to this heinous crime by the security forces. A lot of evidence was collected by civil society activists. What did the Supreme Court do? Nothing. So the Supreme Court or the judiciary is as selective, it is as compromised as it could be. If it were not, there were so many ills that have happened. Gujarat would not have happened. Gujarat's perpetrator would not have been the Prime Minister. So one can really not have any faith in how the Indian judiciary would respond to these things. But I assure you that this particular case would really be dealt with with an iron fist.
All right, this case might be dealt with, but the other
But
tens of
the
thousands
others,
of
tens
cases
and
will
thousands
still
would
remain.
where they were.
In this case, how important a role could the social media play in amplifying such incidents, so that the pressure continues to be amped up on the government, and the pressure also comes from other countries that are the so-called friends and backers of India?
That's the point, Umar. For this particular case, they'll isolate it and they'll make a very befitting response. The civil society would be very vocal, they're already quite vocal. There would be a lot of social media campaigning, but that is not going to take into account the communal based incidents that take place.
True.
No one is going to talk about Bilqis Bano now, right? They'll talk about this doctor only. No one is going to talk about the
2012 incidents, 2012 incidents
exactly.
in New Delhi as well.
Exactly.
How can you forget
because
that?
These incidents then become isolated, and they will just look into what is happening today and how they can redress it. They are not talking about how to correct the system in entirety, where every Muslim girl is secure. For many of the Indians, even the secular Indians, a young Muslim girl out past 8 o'clock in the evening is a person who is trying to lure the innocent Hindu boys.
Trying to look for it, as a lot
And
of people say. Unfortunately, I have to say this term, but this is a very, very unfortunate
she
and
asked
sad
for
state
it,
of affairs.
and that's what happened.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salma Malik, to have joined us. It was a very important and sensitive subject, and I thought you were one of the best advocates as far as talking about a topic as sensitive as this one is concerned, because on the one hand it's a global topic, but on the other hand, when you look at countries like India and how they objectify it and how they use it as a tool, it brings shame to all the other countries also that share more or less the same cultural traditions. I think we need to look back at ourselves and do a course correction. If they are not willing to do that, I think other countries in the region need to do that.
Alhamdulillah, definitely.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salma, to have joined us. Let's come to our last stories very, very quickly. The first concerns a Pakistani peacekeeper, Major Sania Safdar, who has become the first UN peacekeeper in Cyprus to have received the 2023 Certificate of Recognition for advocating gender equality. She is serving with the UN force in Cyprus as a Mission Force Signal Officer, and this award has been issued by the New York-based UN Department for Peace Operations and was presented to her by the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General in Cyprus, Colin Stewart. Congratulations, Major Sahiba. Then let's come to the dozens of Pakistani pilgrims who have unfortunately perished in a road accident in Iran. At least 35 of these pilgrims have been killed. 15 others are still critically injured in this bus incident that happened in the Iranian city of Yazd. According to the initial reports, the accident occurred due to a failure of the brakes. The injured have been shifted to nearby hospitals. Most of these passengers belong to Larkana, Ghotki and other cities of Sindh. The Prime Minister and the President have commiserated with the bereaved families and have prayed for the departed souls, and also have directed that necessary action should be taken against those who are injured. The Foreign Office also has taken a very important statement and saying that they express their heartfelt condolences and sympathies for the families of the Pakistani pilgrims who've lost their lives in a tragic road accident in Iran. Our condolences as well to the families of those who've perished, and I hope that those who've been injured will get well soon. Finally, Jennifer Lopez, ladies and gentlemen, a leading figure from the music world in the US, and Ben Affleck, another producer, director, actor from Hollywood as well, have filed for divorce just 2 years after they got married, and they got married after a very, very whirlwind romance that was on and off for a couple of decades. They had rekindled their romance, and this time they did get married, but it was just after 2 years of marriage that they have now confirmed that they are going through divorce. This is an unfortunate incident of that happens all across the world, but of course these are the private lives of public individuals, and that is why people get to know and follow and see and observe every little move that they make. Let's give them a little bit of privacy, I'd say, and let them follow their lives the way they want to. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that pertain to you, us and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.